Hey Dunchbags, what's going on? It's Landon Remixes here, and it is time for my review of the sophomore album from Splitbreed. This one is called The Free Energy Store. Splitbreed is a hip-hop music trio who have been widely recognized for their collaborations with EDM artists and producers, undoubtedly the most popular of those being the ones that they released through Monstercat. In fact, the first time I ever heard Splitbreed was actually through a Monstercat release. That was the Drop Tech remix of We Are One by Pegboard Nerds, which of course Splitbreed featured on. But I think it's safe to say the first time Splitbreed really caught my attention was when they collaborated with Hellberg, a progressive house producer, on this song Collide in early 2013, a track that went off surprisingly well. Considering hip-hop and melodic house are on such polar ends of the spectrum, you wouldn't have expected a track like this to go over so well, but it ended up blending together very nicely. Furthermore, I fell absolutely in love with Barely Alive and Astronaut's take on the track, blending in electro house, which is actually still one of my favorite electro house remixes to this day of any song. Partially because I feel like Barely Alive and Astronaut did an excellent job of blending the melodic elements of the track with the more dubsteppy growls. That aside, from the very beginning I wouldn't have considered myself a Splitbreed hater, at least up to the point when Splitbreed released their debut album Mile High Club Part 1 back in 2014, which to say the least was atrocious. Now, this is all strictly opinion, but I personally think that Splitbreed's best work has come when they've kind of just stepped back and let their producers take the driver's seat. And that's not to personally attack the trio's regular producer B Genius, but it seems to be the case that Splitbreed's music is very much so hit or miss, and 9 times out of 10, if they don't have another producer kind of guiding them through it, it's going to be a miss. And this was especially evident on Mile High Club, an album that saw Splitbreed bringing in a handful of very talented producers like Monstercat's Varian and Muzzy, along with Basis. But then when Splitbreed seems to get a hold of these productions, everything becomes very sloppy, very mushy, very quickly. Songs like the Muzzy collaboration on this album are absolutely fantastic in my opinion in terms of the production, but then the song essentially loses all credibility when the frontman and MC Towie Mo comes in and tries to spit a verse on this thing. Mo has very little creativity when it comes to him being a lyricist, and most of the time I have a very hard time taking him seriously at all. I'm trying to get me a jet. Yeah, the star's all set. Call the girls from Cruella so I can get them both wet. And this was also the album that we saw Splitbreed absolutely obliterate what I already thought was an okay song by the Pegboard Nerds on the song High Rollers. And I've already made it pretty clear that I very much was not a fan of this album, but you know, when I found out they were releasing a sophomore album and kind of separating themselves from the Mile High Club series, I was willing to give them another chance. But the Free Energy Store doesn't seem to show Splitbreed improving in really any areas. Mo's vocals on this album were so atrocious that I would have preferred to listen to every single one of these songs as an instrumental instead of what they ended up being. But even then, there were only a handful of songs in this album that I thought were halfway decent in terms of the production. How they contracted La Castlevania and Rogue for this album, I have absolutely no idea, because their productions are clearly way beyond what anything Splitbreed is doing vocally with this album. Just about every other production on this album sounds insanely cheaply made, like it was crafted by a 13-year-old producer who got a hold of way too many sample packs. For example, the song Almost Home, which sounds like the producer went, I wonder what Marshmello would sound like if he made drum and bass. And like I've already stated, the song's accompanying lyrics are even worse, with Mo kind of giving this try-hard, emotional reflection on the journey that Splitbreed has been. Who would have ever thought that 3 kids from the bottom would go on and perform at the Warped Tour? I've been so fortunate to take a shot at the top, and I'm still shooting. You know, maybe if you actually took your music more seriously and took some time to perfect yourself as a lyricist, maybe you would be at the top, but you know, that's nowhere in sight right now. I will go ahead and admit that this album did start off in at least a semi-good note. Rogue's style of glitch hop was definitely something worth bringing back in my opinion. I also think the vocals lay at least semi-nicely over Rogue's production on this one. Although they weren't anything fantastic by any means, you know, I've always thought Splitbreed's vocals have worked a lot better over glitch hop beats. For example, Valent's remix of Break Loose by Televisor that they featured on, as well as We Are One by Pegboard Nerds. Glitch hop, at least in EDM, has been a bit of a dying genre in the last couple years, so it's really cool to see kind of glitch hop coming back in its own unique way on this album. Though I wouldn't say that this song redeems the album as a whole all that much, because my favorite part of the song is when Splitbreed just lets Rogue go and just kind of handle it from there as an instrumental, and that's the best part of the song. There's really nothing better than just getting absolute silence out of the vocals. For the record, I do think that Splitbreed has a lot of potential, but only if they work out those big kinks that they have in their music, and I don't don't see them kind of fixing that anytime soon. And like I said, there are some decent moments on this album, but really that's only the result of Splitbreed bringing on a couple really talented guest producers. For the Free Energy Store, I am feeling a decent 1.5 out of 10. If for some reason you want to check out this album, as always, I have the Spotify link down in the description. And if you have listened to this album already and you're liking it or you're hating it, I don't care what, let me know what you think down in the comment section below. As always, I'm Landon Remixes. I hope you guys enjoyed this review, and I'll catch you later. Peace.